Epicureanism and death in video games. Epicurus believes that death is nothing to us. A simplified meaning of this is that the way to a happy life is to live it pleasantly, meaning to forgo pain and fear. Death, being the primary fear for most people, is a direct hindrance to people in the pursuit of a pleasant life. So, how does this tie into video games? The Prince of Persia reboot in 2008 was a game where you couldn't actually die. Each time you made a misstep, you were grabbed by a magical friend who would return you to where you last were. This is a game where death essentially is only a minor cutscene of a punishment. Call of Duty makes dying easy. You get shot, you hit the reload button, and poof, you respawn somewhere else on the map. Even if you lose a kill streak or are further away from your objective, dying really has little influence in a game that revolves around killing.
Help! Help! He's mean! He's mean! Oh god. It was going so well.
Dark Souls is a grueling game that requires you to die in various ways to learn the multitude of enemy attack patterns and weak spots. It's an example of a game where you're motivated by fear of dying, because if you perish, you lose all of the souls you have collected, which are what allow you to level up. While these three games are on different spectrums of how death affects you, all still fall to the idea that death is a form of losing, and one's motivation is to play the game without dying. This is described from a cognitivist viewpoint under the self-determination theory, which focuses on people's motivations for why they do certain things. Deci and Ryan, in their paper, specifically focus on intrinsic and extrinsic motivations in this theory, which, in regards to extrinsic motivations, I focus on external regulation. A quote is, "External regulation refers to behaviors for which the locus of initiation is external to the person. For example, the offer of a reward or a threat of punishment." Going back to the Dark Souls example, author of the book GAME, Menno Dennis claims that these external regulations are found all the time, whether through earning loot or dying. Dark Souls uses the tactic of dying and losing all your hard-earned gear to motivate the player to learn strategies and play the game smarter. Interestingly enough, Dean claims that this approach in Dark Souls, while fun and challenging for a traditional gamer, can actually feel alienating to students. Students who feel externally regulated show less interest, value, and effort towards achievement. To me, this shows that external regulations can be fun and interesting at first, but ultimately fail at creating deep learning. Re-Dead, the video game. My idea for a game would take the weight of dying off of a player's shoulders and focus on puzzle solving. It would be a third-person action-adventure game that uses dying to complete tasks. Similar to many puzzle games, the Zone of Proximal Development tutorials will be put into place, allowing players to learn from the game, completing goals and objectives that will allow them to advance into more challenging puzzles and learn more about the story. The basic premise of the game is that you're a boy with an unnatural ability to, well, die. When you're dead, you move around the level as a ghost, which has its own unique powers and abilities. A brief summary of the boy's goal is that he was slaughtered by an overbearing militant army, only to discover that he cannot be killed. Through various means, he is able to die and resuscitate himself to clear puzzles and avenge his family. For example, say there is a river. When you're a ghost, you can't pass over the water. The water is electrically charged due to a generator on a cliffside, which the boy cannot reach. You thus must kill yourself by stepping into the water and having your ghost form find a way to reach the top of the cliff to shut off the power. This is but one example of a number of situations where a character must die to progress in the game, not through learning new strategies, as in Dark Souls, but through an intrinsically motivating goal of getting to the next level. What happens here is what happens in most linear games. Levels become behavior Skinner boxes, where individuals need to find the appropriate pathways to make it to the end faster. This isn't a bad thing, however. Games like Portal do this extremely well, motivating the player because they are mentally engaged and feel invested in the story, not solely because they have a fear of dying and losing progress.
You can't win! I hold all the cards! Then why are you afraid?
To make the game explain Epicurean philosophy, there will be death in the game. The final boss, the warlord who slaughtered the boy's family, will fear you, thus he will fear death. It will be present through dialogues with characters on the boy's path that the warlord once wasn't a monster, but he too experienced the loss of a loved one, and now kills to protect his own. He will be afraid of the boy. It will be evident that the warlord's life is not a pleasant one, and the boy, being enlightened, will explain to the warlord that death is not something to fear, for it distorts from pleasantries of life, which Epicurus claims are only attainable through knowledge and friendship and a temperate life, with freedom from fear and pain. The warlord would come to terms with this, make peace with his enemies, and die for his crime, knowing that there is nothing to fear.
Talk about family when family's all that we got. Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side. And now you gon' be with me for the last ride.